If I sound a little burned out, it's because I just competed with one of the race walkers here at Marist College. At our track and field programs here at Marist, there's a lot of running events, a lot of field events, but what a lot of people don't know is you have to walk for some of those. I sat down with the 3 race walkers on the Marist track and field team to talk about a little racing. I also put on my walking shoes, not my running shoes, and raced them, and you'll see I got a little burn. Stay tuned for more here at Center Field. Today, I think I just wanted to start off really with a baseline of how do you get involved in a sport like race walking?
My freshman year of high school, I decided to try out for, well, no, I didn't actually. My friend asked me to do track with her, and I was like, why would anyone want to do track? So I did the conditioning week until the very last day, and then they taught us how to race walk. My legs are just very overly hyperextended, so then it was like, I just had like a natural movement to it, And my high school coach was like, you could really go to college for it. And so I reached out to our coach, Chuck Williams. He got back in touch with me eventually. I've been doing it ever since here at Marist.
The only reason I got into it is because I made fun of it, because I thought it was a silly event and a lot of people made fun of it. There was only one girl on my team who did it, but she did it on the occasion when we needed points at leagues. So my dad pulled up a video of the race walk on YouTube, and we were practicing it in the hallway of our apartment, and I was not good at it. I was so slow. I finally got a private coach through my school, and my school was very supportive. They really helped me. I went to the Olympic trials to watch the girls from Marist race, and I spoke to Chuck there, and we followed suit with everything else.
I basically had the same start as Marissa. We went to the same high school. My whole life I played volleyball, so I did track and field in the winter and spring just to keep myself in shape. And same thing, during conditioning week, I tried it out, and the coach said I seemed like I'd be a good fit for it. And then as the years went on, I started to figure out that I actually was kind of good at it, and I started to have a lot of success. By March of 2023, I committed here to continue. It always seems silly from an outside perspective until you actually try it, and then I realized there's a lot you can do with it.
I think from an outside perspective, I don't know how you would train for race walking because I don't know a ton about the sport itself. But you mentioned you train 11 and a half months out of the year, or 11 out of 12 months out of the year. Maybe talk about how difficult the training regimen is.
Yeah, it is basically, I'd say 10 and a half, 11 months out of the year, continuous training. And that's even when we're at home in the summer. My dad will run next to me while I'm walking. Yeah.
I guess my most difficult learning curve was how silly it was. And quite honestly, in high school, I remember when I'd have to just go off and just do a normal mile day. I would start running whenever I'd pass any of my school friends because I didn't want them to see me race walking. Because obviously, I can see how silly it looks. As I've gotten older and as much success as I've gotten from it, and we're all D1 athletes because of this event, I realized that this event gave me so much that I shouldn't be ashamed of it, and I shouldn't belittle it because it's a hard sport. Whenever I have the opportunity to tell someone what this sport means to me and what it's like, I make sure that they know how difficult it is and how much time we put into it and how important it is.
You sometimes don't want to tell people, especially in high school, that you race walk because you're wearing a track and field logo on your shirt, whatever, and then you have to get into this whole explanation of what you do, and everyone's like, well, what's that? What's race walk? That sounds so silly. My grandma race walks. No. It's completely different. Also, there's form, there's technique with the event. You have to have a straight leg. Your foot cannot be off the ground. You have to have one foot on the ground at all times. There's red cards where they'll just come up to you, give you a red card. You're kicked out of the race. So it's really, really difficult. And you could be doing a 20K race and you don't know what could happen to you. You could be the best person. Olympians even get the cards.
The learning curve is learning the form. And like she said about getting disqualified, most of the time they do not tell you until after the race. So it's It's also like learning to like mentally battle that. I got injured my senior year, so I wasn't able to fully do the form, and I would get pulled out of races all the time because of my injuries. Year running, no one really gets disqualified as much. Race walking, it's such a big thing, and it's just learning to deal with that and like everything that comes along with it.
Do you want us to give you some examples of these terminologies?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so I guess show me like the biggest like misconception or the biggest fault someone can make during a race.
Okay. All right. So when we're running, we run, 2 feet off the ground.
Right. Of course, naturally.
It's like, I'll do it in slow motion. It's like 1, and then you're allowed to bend it when you like bring it up.
Okay.
But then as soon as the foot touches the ground, it has to be like as straight as possible. Some people, it's like that's why like I'm a little easier because it's like I'm overextended, but some people just can't like straighten their knee as much as that. So when they do like straighten it as much as they can, their knee still looks a little bent, and then that results in a disqualification.
There is no way. I can imagine like the most common injury has to be like hyperextending your knee or like.
We have knee injuries all the time.
That's bizarre. If we race later or I try to do this later, I'm gonna do so bad. Talk about the biggest misconceptions in your opinion about the sport itself.
I definitely feel that like people think that we're just like race walking at the pace that like an average person is walking at. An average person's mile, I would say, is probably like 18 minutes. We're not anywhere near that. We're way below 8 minutes for a mile walking. People just have this conception like, oh yeah, they're going so slow. We're training like a runner would train. We're getting the same treatment as a runner, just things are tweaked.
I would say the same things that they are saying. Like, there's definitely a lot of rude comments that come along with it. I remember, like, I'd come home from big races and I would literally, like, be scrolling through TikTok, and on my For You page would be people, like, filming the races and posting it with, like, rude comments. Sometimes, like, I would see myself in the videos. It's hard to deal with that when you love it and you want to be successful at it, but there's a lot of people that aren't on like the same page as you. Like, I'll always hear like, are you even tired after it, or just do like a real sport, when people don't realize that it is a real sport. It's just not like as largely broadcasted as the rest would be.
You talked about how the Olympic trials is next. Talk about that process and when that is, and also what the training is looking like for those trials.
So Marist and I are trying to qualify for the Olympic trials. There is a race in March and a race in April where we are trying to hit the qualifying time. And Marissa was just on that time, and actually she may be able to qualify with that time. One of them is going to be in California. It's a 20K. We have to qualify with the 20K time. They will not accept any other time. And it has to be in an officiated meet. So it's like really, really particular. And that the Olympic trials is in July in Oregon. So yeah.
Okay, so now you're going to show me how to race walk. Where do I even start? Where do you even begin?
How I like to start is I'll like start with like my heel on the line.
Okay.
And
Okay.
You kind of use the back leg to like push off and get that momentum.
Okay, but you can't like, you have to have both feet on the ground, right? Or whatever.
Correct.
Okay, so I've been doing a little homework. Okay, so
once that one foot's on the ground, we'll work in slow motion, all right? So the one foot's on the ground, you pick this foot up, all right?
Okay.
This foot is still straight.
Okay.
And then you put it down flat, straight, all right? No bent leg.
Okay,
and then
no
you
bent
pick
leg.
it up, all right?
Okay, so kind of like.
Exactly.
And then.
But now we need to work our hips into it.
Right. Okay. So I know the hips are important.
They're extremely important. Everyone has different forms. So like my form, I'd say, is like a little bit like bouncy, but it's because like I like sit in my hips a little. So like you might have a bouncy form.
Okay. So I mean, I'm doing this with a mic in hand, but and then obviously a lot faster, like something along those lines.
Excellent.
Okay.